still there, but it's much lesser. Because having gone through 50% of the way and everybody gave up on me and I came back, it was only because I felt that this is not my time to go. I don't know. I mean, I just would not give up. It was like, no, I'm not going to give up. I have so much to offer. I've just finished my ACC journey. I want to do my PCC. I swear to you, that was in my mind. I was thinking, and I was actually coaching myself through it. I mean, it seems funny, but it was a great self-coaching time for me, because who did I have?
Thank you everyone for joining in. We have with us Avril today, and I'm personally really excited to have this conversation, to learn from you today, Avril, because for all of you who've seen the description that we shared on socials and website, Avril was earlier in the show business, and she made almost a 180-degree turn to a completely, I think, different life into coaching and healing. So really looking forward to learning from you on what that shift was, how did that happen, and like what led you to the place where you are today. For you all, Avril also is a certified coach. She's a best-selling author, and she's been featured in the Women Entrepreneur magazine as one of the top 10 female corporate trainers in India. So welcome to our webinar today, Avril, where Avril is going to have a conversation with Ram on her hero's journey. And I'm going to just invite Ram to take over from here, and we'll get started.
Yeah, thanks, Kira. Hi, welcome, Avril.
Thank you, Ram.
I mean, normally for quite some time now, the kind of general conversation that we have had over with in a sense, corporate leaders, as it were. And one of the things that Avril I met about, I don't know, maybe 4 months ago, Avril, 4, 5, 6 months ago, I don't know when, we had an alumni meeting of the Kocharya learners in Bangalore, and met her at that time. And I learned that she was a musician, and she is currently practicing the Buddhist practice with the group of Dalai Lama people, and she has her teachers and so on. Then I got to meet her a couple of times more, and each time there was a different facet of her. So Avril, I know that you kept asking me that I'm going to put you under any kind of stress. No, I'm not. So the whole conversation hopefully would be just about as relaxing as it can be, and probably at the same time creating certainly learning for me and learning for other people, and probably some awareness in you as well. If that happens, that would be fantastic. That would have achieved the objective of the session. So one of the things, Avril, really, the other day when we met at the club and we had lunch together with Smita, and you had been incommunicado for a while, and you said that was because you fell off a horse and you'd hurt your back, and then you talked about a little bit about how you went through a pretty bad phase of COVID, where I think there was a bit of a situation where it was touch and go kind of a stuff. So what impressed me was that in spite of all that, if you hadn't shared any of it in some way, very matter-of-factly, there was a total amount of joie de vivre, as it were, within you. And I would have never guessed that any of those things had happened, because people tend to talk a lot about it. They are looking for attention as a result of it, and so on and so forth. So what impressed me was that aspect of the resilience that you showed in multiple ways. So just wanted to understand a bit, what was it that sort of helps you being energetic and resilient to start out this conversation?
Thank you so much, Ram, for that question. And before that, I just want to say hello to everybody who's joined. Thank you so much for joining us. And like Ram said, I hope to have a few awarenesses, because talking to Ram is always a joy, and he always makes me evolve a little bit more. So to answer your question, Ram, yes, I decided to take horse riding lessons. I love horses, I love animals. And I got up on the stallion called Tarzan. I had bonded with him. Everything was going great. And suddenly he bucked for some reason, and I fell hard. So there was a lot of pain. It was quite excruciating, actually. If anyone's fallen off a horse, they'll attest to that. And the first thing that welled up in me is, have I broken a bone? Will I be able to walk? Because it was really painful, because I fell hard on the side of my, like on the lower part of my lumbar region and on the left hand side. So as soon as I got up, I just bent and I stretched and I found that, okay, everything is good. And then I just put out an intention and I said, I'm absolutely fine. And I command my body to be fine. And then I noticed that as soon as I said that, I was releasing a little bit of the fear, but there was still fear. So the trainer told me, take 10 minutes break and get back on the horse. And I was thinking, are you serious? And he's like, no, you got to get back on the horse. So I mounted the horse again and I rode again. And I noticed that actually it was very comforting for me. And you're right, Ram, in a way, I've had to look at resilience as one of my strongest strengths. That's like a double positive, I guess, as one of my main strengths, because I've always been alone in my life. I've never really had support from anyone, whether it was in show business, whether when I decided to become a coach, a therapist, an energy therapist, no one ever believed in me and no one supported me. So I've always had to have my own back. And so even this COVID incident, right? So you take the vaccine and you're fine for 6 months, and then suddenly I'm sitting reading a book one day and I feel my heart stopping, like literally like stopping and starting again. And I was very mindful, because I teach mindfulness. So I know Ram talks about beyond mindfulness, but actually it is going beyond mindfulness, because then you're really aware and astute in that moment as to, the first thing is panic, right? So I had to train myself to breathe deep. And I did a lot of research with an Ayurvedic doctor and a holistic doctor who's now my doctor. I had to go for an angiogram because it happened twice after that. And in 2021, I was in hospital for 3 weeks, from the 7th of December to the 21st of December. And that was the time when I really had to dig deep and, understand what was happening to me, because the angiogram was clear, but my heart was not beating the same. My body was swelling up. I had circulation issues. My gut had gone AWOL. I don't know what was happening in that department. It was just frightening. And every doctor I went to, CT scans, they all said, you're fine, you're fine. And so I decided to take matters into my own hands, as it were. And I decided to start combining Ayurveda, really understanding what is my energy like, and beginning to really architect my own energy. And then I began going to a HRT specialist, a hormone replacement therapist. And they gave me a lot of hormones to take. I'm still on hormones. But through all this, Ram, I found a joy for life, because I realized that I don't know when is my last day. And if I don't have fun, if I don't really live out, and there's no need to talk about it, there's no need to complain, there's no need to tell people anything, because it doesn't matter really. It really doesn't matter to other people. What matters is how you interact with them. How much joy are you bringing them? What value do they see when they connect with you? Nobody wants to be with like a sobby person and always nagging and crying. So that's the reason why I just decided to completely change my outlook. And I think if I didn't go through, the main thing the vaccine reaction, because I got a reaction to the vaccine. It was not the COVID, it was the vaccine. So if I didn't have that, I think I wouldn't have evolved as much as I have over the last 1 year.
Okay. But you also said that you weren't always like that somewhere. I mean, at least there was an undertone that I gathered. So what, if anything, that caused this shift? Of course, now in this particular thing that you went into pretty much a deep exploration of who you are and stuff like that when you went through this exercise. I think if I remember right, when we were talking about it, you almost said that you went through that space, the dark tunnel where at the end of it, there was light. It was almost like, kind of near-death experience kind of a stuff, maybe that, or maybe something similar. But that itself is tremendously powerful. But over and above that, before that, was it something that prepared you for any of this for you to face any of this in the kind of equanimity with which you faced it?
I think it was my studying with His Holiness and my gurus on the path of Dharma, Buddhism, where they taught us to be aware of death from day one. And the teachings of the Buddha, one of the verses says, this life is as, impermanent as a water bubble, as a candle flame. And I think, they were drilling, every guru has drilled this into me for the last 12 years. And then I saw the value of it. I've read different books from Mingyu Rinpoche to His Holiness. And the concept of awareness, to be, to go beyond that statement of being mindful, to really go beyond that into it. What does it mean to actually be present with whatever you're going through without any aversion or attachment? And understanding that death is a transition. And so, like I was talking to you the other day, Ram, I said, of course, I'm afraid of the process of dying. I'm not infallible in that way. But I'm not scared of death. So even in the hospital, I was wondering, like, how will I die? Because just to give you a little bit of context, if you don't mind, my father died of cancer 11 years ago. And he was in the final stages of cancer. And I helped him to transition. And he could, when he was going through that process, everyone was out of the room. And I really helped him transition without any attachment. He saw the light, he could see, he wanted to go, but he didn't want to leave my mother. And that attachment was holding him back. And so I really had to tell him, whisper in his ear and talk to him and sing a lot of devotional hymns to him to ease his mind and to make him understand that there was nothing left for him to do here. He had to leave because he was in so much pain and I was going to look after my mother. All these things came kind of flashing, back at me when I was in that hospital bed. Even the angiogram was not going so well because my veins were so weak that they couldn't even put the dye in properly. So they had to puncture me in my groin and my hand. It was like really, and all through that, I was just present. So I think to answer your question, it was the practice that I've been doing for the last 12, 15 years. I became a Buddhist formally 12 years ago, but I was practicing for 15 years that really prepared me to be, where I am today in every aspect of my life, especially when things get tough.
Okay. So what I'm curious about is, on the one hand, you said that while you learned a lot about the impermanence of life, the anicca and so on of the Buddhist concepts, and you don't have the fear of death, but as you were very honest and authentic to share that you are afraid of the process of death or pain of death. But obviously, when you went through this experience, you must have gone through that as well. So having gone through it, now at the end of it, where are you? Is that fear still there, or you have to a greater extent overcome that?
The fear is still there, but it's much lesser. Because having gone through 50% of the way and everybody gave up on me and I came back, it was only because I felt that this is not my time to go. I don't know. I mean, I just would not give up. It was like, no, I'm not going to give up. I have so much to offer. I've just finished my ACC journey. I want to do my PCC. I swear to you, that was in my mind. I was thinking, and I I was actually coaching myself through it. I mean, it seems funny, but it was a great self-coaching time for me, because who did I have? My mother is 76. She was already riddled with fear. I didn't have anybody except my driver in the hospital, because I did not tell anybody, not even my brother. I didn't inform anyone. So I literally only had myself to kind of. So it was a great self-coaching, that whole phase for me. And I was telling Priya, and Ramesh, I was telling them, after I came out of it, I shared it with them as a coaching experience. And I was telling them this was a great opportunity for me to coach myself. So I think that the fear is there, but it's much more negotiable. You know what I mean? It's like it's looser. It's kind of hard. The hardened shell is reduced, and it's kind of more fluid.
Okay. So I what I was laughing at was that ICF would love to have you as an ambassador, but probably you're the first person who came back to life and said that I want to come back to life because I want to be a PCC coach. Yeah, they would have it emblazoned. And just for that, without going through any test they might give you. So you just have to write to them and say, hey, this is what happened or whatever. They would want you to write a blog or something on that. So that's fantastic too. And we should do the same thing in Kocharya. We should use you as an ambassador, someone who lost the fear of death because she wanted to become a PCC coach, yeah, or get the ACTP certification from us. But tell me, I just want to try a little bit of a somatic experience with you.
Sure.
And you are familiar with somewhat the process. We talked about it as well. So if you were to, for a moment, imagine that space that you were in and that you were going to experience that fear, and if you go to relive that for a brief moment, so long as it's not terribly uncomfortable, what is that you experience within the body, and where do you experience it?
So when I have relived this experience, even by talking about it to other people, I feel a closing in my chest, and I feel this very dark kind of cloud in my chest. But and believe me when I say this, but when I'm talking to you now, I'm not feeling that. I'm actually feeling quite expansive. I can feel my heart rate is still stable. There is a slight warmth in my solar plexus heart chakra area, but I'm not feeling that closeness or that uneasiness. It's just it's very open, and that's what I'm feeling now.
Okay, so is it what, airy, or is it something else?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's airy. You're right. It's airy.
And does it have a color to it? Does it have a shape?
The color that came to mind is like a dull gold.
Yeah.
It's like rays coming out of my body, like the rays of the sun, or like like rays going in like narrow to broad.
And this is in your heart area.
In my heart area.
So obviously what you're feeling now is nothing uncomfortable. You're feeling free, you're feeling airy. It's a beautiful gold, and it's in your heart area. And therefore, if you just carry this with you in future, is there a likelihood that the remembrance of this would enable you to face any negative feelings in future more easily?
Oh, absolutely. Even before you said it, I was thinking, I want to imprint this feeling every time I feel fear the next time. I want to imprint this right now.
Okay. So if that is what you want to do, I request you just put your fingers together like this, the first two fingers together, and take a deep breath. Hold that breath, and in that space in the heart, visualize this beautiful golden airy feeling that's coming up for you. And as you experience it, gradually exhale and let that energy spread around you, outside of you. And you are now in a kind of a bubble of that beautiful golden, airy ray space. Is that possible for you? Just nod your
Yeah, I'm
head.
already doing it. Yes.
Great. Just stay there for as long as you're comfortable. And keep breathing in deep, holding for a while and expanding, exhaling. Just for a few moments more. Excellent. So anytime that you really want this experience to recur for you from a visceral memory perspective, just put your fingers together, do a deep breath practice, and you will be there. It's as simple as that. The somatic feeling would sort of happen.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Totally. Thank you. And I mean, as long as we are in the body, we are animate, we are sentient. There's no gainsaying the fact that we will feel the pain, and we are not like the Ramana Maharishis of the world who said, this body itself is not me and mine, so how can the pain be mine? But I don't think any of us is in that space. But the fact is, you've been a healer yourself, and you did what you did with your father and so on. So doing this as well as just being aware of that pain without running away from it. It's like the shadow. The more you run, the shadow follows you. But if you turn around and look at the shadow, it's no longer there. The same thing. The pain again is, as long as we are trying to run away from it, the pain stays with you. But if you're able to face the pain and deal with it, the pain reduces. That's clearly possible. So yeah. I just want to shift a little bit into, yeah, you were a singer, and from what I know that you were doing well. And like I remember in Bangalore Club, many of them recognized you and came up and talked to you about it. So what is it that happened that made you give that up? What was the shift about, if you're willing to share that?
Sure. Okay, so I am going to be very honest. So it might seem a little bit offensive to certain people who are in show business, in the powers that be. But this was my experience. I hold no grounds for anybody else. It's totally my subjective experience. So when I went to Bombay at the age of 21, I was very sheltered in Bangalore. I was in a boarding school, but when I came back, I was very sheltered by my parents. That's the way I was brought up. So when I went there, it was literally like a culture shock for me. I already had a recording contract, but in order for me to fulfill that recording contract in practicality, there were many things expected of me in terms of an exchange. So the casting couch is definitely a reality in Bombay. And it not only happens in Bollywood, it happens also in the music business. So I lost 3 contracts because of the casting couch. So then I said, okay, forget it. I'm just going to go travel and going to sing, and I'm going to make music on my own. I'm going to finance my own music. And so I began doing that. And all throughout that, I was expected by my record company to attend networking parties, go to studios at 10 o'clock in the night. And I just couldn't understand why, because I knew that there was no music being made. There were other things being done, but there was no music being made. So I fought that system. So I slowly lost favor with the powers that be in A&R, the owners of the record companies. And they began delaying so I would record the album and then they would delay it. And I just at some point in time made enough money to, support myself. And I began doing my own music videos. So whatever you see on YouTube or whatever awards I've been nominated for, they're all financed by me as an independent artist, because and it's just the norm. It's just the culture. It's just the way it is. And, it's like one person trying to change an entire psyche. an entire outlook. And I wasn't in that position of power to do that. So I just decided, I can't join them. So I'm going to leave. There was something inside me. It was, I don't know, Ram. I've not been a very religious person. Even when I was a Roman Catholic, I was brought up Roman Catholic. I was never a very religious person. I love Christ. I couldn't understand the church. Um, I didn't see love and compassion in my church among people. So I stopped going to church. Um, and so it wasn't a religious thing. There was something inside me which said, this is not for me. I can't exchange my body for fame. I can't do it. So I just decided to kind of slowly start learning about spirituality, studying about energy, studying about, to take my mind off it. It was actually like a distraction for me. I wanted to get as far away from. So I used to perform, I used to sing, I used to make good money, I used to come back home, and I used to learn about things, study other things. And at that point of time, I was just about to release an English single when my father was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. And if you're not in Bombay, you're forgotten. So I came back to Bangalore, and for 3 years, I had to look after him because they said he was going to live for 6 months. But my father was resilient. He was the resilient of the resilient. You know what I mean? So and he knew he was going to die because I was very honest with him. We had a conversation about it. Though everybody chickened out. I said, I don't want to lie to this man because he was very hopeful about doing chemo. And I said, no, Dad, it's not going to work out. So I devoted myself just to singing in Bangalore. That's how everybody still remembers me, because I was doing every club, every place I could to earn a living, basically, and to help my father because I was his nighttime nurse. We had a nurse in the day, and then we had a nighttime nurse, which was me. And that's the time where I really started growing as a certified pranic healer. I started practicing EFT and certified with Dr. Carol Look. So I began really, understanding. And that's the time when I went actually to a person's house for a pranic healing session, and I saw the Buddha of compassion, a tanka, Avril Quadros on her wall. And I mean, when I tell people, most people think I'm crazy when I say this, but I think you can relate, Ram. I'm not saying you're crazy, but you can relate to my story. When I saw that tanka, it was like something was calling me. I felt like a sense of deja vu, like I knew this way of life. And I felt an immediate comfort inside me. My father was dying. I didn't have a career. My phone book was almost empty because, people, when you have, when there's good times and bad times, unfortunately, all my Bollywood friends were not there for me at this time. So my phone book was almost empty. I wasn't really socializing at all. And this just provided me solace. I just took to it like a fish takes to water. So I think that there was something always inside me, which is why I say I was divinely derailed. Because, had I, and it's, people who have gone that path. I mean, I know a lot of famous actors and actresses who have gone that path. And, they all said, it's very matter of fact, it's just part of the job. So it wasn't something that no one has ever done before. If I wanted to do it, if my mindset was different, I probably would have. But why was I not? And that's the only thing that stopped me. Because I truly believe that I am blessed with great talent. And I don't say that from a space of ego. I say that from a space of being respectful for what the divine has given me. And so why did that not happen for me? And this came full circle for me when I actually met His Holiness, because he's one of my personal gurus. And I was presented him with a sutra called the Heart Sutra, the Prajna Paramita Sutra, which is considered by Mahayana Buddhists to be the most important of all Lord Buddha's sutras. And I sung it for him in Sanskrit and gave it to him. And he listened to it. And he said to me, and I think he said this in public, but he said it to me personally. And he said, we have so many singers and artists and musicians and painters, but we need more healers and more people of service for other people. He didn't say, do it, change your life. He didn't say anything. He just looked me he just caught hold of my face and he looked me straight in the eye and he said that. And then he put my head on his shoulder and I was just crying. You know, I was in some kind of a divine rapture. So I was just crying. I don't remember anything around me, but I remember these words. And that was the second time that he had met me. The first time, he just held my hand and he said, I'm so glad that, you know, I'm bringing Buddhism, that I'm able to bring Buddhism back to India and you can do something great. And again, I was like, okay, you know, one of those things. But it just came full circle the second time. And that's when I decided, in 6 months, I packed up everything in Bombay and I was back in Bangalore and I started working with people as an energy therapist.
Yeah. I completely resonate with every single thing that you said, starting from, and which is why I really wasn't even thinking about it when I asked Kiva to say, we're going to chat about your hero's journey. And it really is that, because in a hero's journey, it's always the call. That's the beginning, that's initiation. And like you're saying that Tanka of Ankaleshwara and then being drawn to it in something, I have experienced it myself. But you are fortunate, you're tremendously fortunate that you came across someone as pure as a Dalai Lama, because if I really, from my experience, if I look around the world today, probably he's the rarest of the rare. Many of the other people whom I can associate with that kind of purity and nobleness and compassion, they have passed, the Ramanas and the Ramakrishnas and Paramacharya and so on. Even like when I see him in a video, I have never met him personally. One of these days, I'm sure thanks to you, I'll meet him. But that just the look of him, there are certain people, if you just glimpse them, tears come to your eyes. It's something which is as deep as that. So he's probably the only person that I can think of who's living today who has that kind of an effect on me. So you are extremely, extremely lucky. But even then, in a hero's journey, invariably, or in your case, as a heroine's journey, whichever it is, being gender neutral. So there must have been challenges for you as you went into this path. So what were some of those challenges as even as you are moving towards it? Because in many of these paths, though, in the hero's journey, you reach a point of the Holy Grail and you come. In my own experience, yes, maybe, but you don't really, because you continue to learn, and that's a continuously expanding space. And you do feel, you do experience challenges. So what are they in your life?
I think when I started the journey, so I'll just briefly explain what happened to me, you know, with regards to the path that I chose of Buddhism and getting into healing and therapy and coaching. So like I said, like I didn't have anyone's support. And I'm very, very, I was brought up to be very, very respectful and, you know, to adhere to whatever my parents said, because they were complete disciplinarians. My mom's a school teacher. My dad was brought up Roman Catholic in the 40s. So, you know, he was a real strict father. But there was something inside me, Ram, that was undeniably, it had decided for me. I don't know if that makes sense. There was something inside me that had decided for me. And I could not refuse it. And my father knew that I had, you know, become a Buddhist. I'm sorry, I just get a little emotional. My father knew. And he never stopped me. He just said, I believe in Jesus and Mother Mary. So when you come to care for me, because I had to bathe him and stuff, please don't chant. So I spoke to my guru and I said, this is what my father said, you know, and he said, sing hymns to him. It's all the same. Sing hymns, talk about Jesus. And so we began praying the rosary and talking about things like that. My mother has never tried to stop me because she knows better than that. I've decided. And right now, there's no going back for me. I have a calling to help. I have a calling to be better than I am now. And so it's tough. I don't have many friends because it's not them, it's I. My trajectory has shifted. And so if I have to walk that path alone, it's fine. And it actually gives me more time to reflect. And it's really taught me about being in a state of less ego. Because there is no room on my path as a coach, as a spiritual seeker for ego. And some people think, they perceive me because of the way I dress and the way I look, that I'm very egotistical. I just love to dress up. Um, but that doesn't speak to who I truly am inside. And I don't seek the validation of anybody now. The only validation I seek is a higher validation when I do my meditation or when I'm with someone and that person is being genuinely benefited. That's the validation that is of a higher purpose, that I feel, okay, this is really going to help. And so it's tough, but I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it because I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah. It takes a truly evolved person like the teacher that who told you that talk about Jesus and sing hymns to him and stuff like that, because ultimately that's what it is about. It's only the fake, manipulative puppeteers who sort of set one religion against another. And even today, just the same way as I get goosebumps listening to an MS Subbulakshmi singing about some of the songs, it's exactly the same listening to Mahalia Jackson singing Just a Closer Walk with Thee, something like that. There's no difference in terms of the expression, the experience, whatever that you have at that point in time. So it's absolutely beautiful. So when you said, the one thing that strikes me, you used the word "I'm alone," but you didn't use the word "I'm lonely." And to me, that was very significant. So is there something behind that use of the word alone, and what does that mean to you?
I'm alone in the sense that I don't have many friends. I don't seek company. I like being alone. If I'm with people, I will, kind of blend with them and I will be like them. So I'm kind of very adapting. I'm never lonely. I'm never lonely. First of all, because I love my own company. I'm not a narcissist, but I love my own company because I have many conversations with myself. From the time I wake up in the morning after my first hour of meditation, I'm constantly conversing with myself. I'm constantly talking, sometimes loudly, sometimes in my mind. I listen to a lot of discourses. I don't feel lonely at all. I think loneliness can be a very, very self-isolating, crushing experience and feeling to go through. And luckily, uh, I've gone beyond that because, again, I keep going back to Buddhism because they teach you about the fact that everything is impermanent. Here today, gone tomorrow. Here now, gone next. And so, with that awareness, I'm kind of trying to bridge. Um, there's no gap, but like like build a bridge and then seamlessly go on to the next bridge, and build a bridge and then seamlessly go on to the next bridge. And whoever is there, but that bridge and that path can only be taken by me and by nobody else. So yeah, and I have Tara. We spoke about Tara in the beginning. I think my mom thinks I'm slightly demented because I talk to Tara all the time. And I feel like she listens to me, and she can't speak back. So what's the loss?
Absolutely.
I think, yeah.
Well, we have, you might call her a mongrel, you might call her a rescue dog. She's about 13, 14. My wife picked her up from the road. Somebody had run over her. So she got her treated, splinted, and she was running around with 3 legs and hobbling along. But anyway, that's a long time ago. But when I hear psychologists and some idiots say that dogs don't have emotions, my immediate reaction is, you don't have brains. It's as simple as that, because they have the most natural and purest of emotions, and we don't even understand what they are about. But going back to what you said, at least based on what I know, someone who Dalai Lama held in his arms, you'll never be alone. You'll never be lonely. Whatever happens, there will be that spirit. There will be that presence. Of course, as you said, you have Tara. So that makes it even doubly blessed. So yeah, I don't think that's a space that you will ever be in. So people very often confuse between the words lonely and alone. To be lonely is a disability, but be alone is a divine blessing, because it's unless you are alone, there are many paths that you can't climb with anybody else, however close you are to them. That aloneness is totally required. And that's really the path of what I would call the no-mind state that Zen talks about, the sunya that Buddha talks about, the mindlessness we talk about, where you get in there. So moving from there, I know that you did Vipassana because you were advising Smita that day, who was nervous about going into Vipassana. You are more of a veteran in Vipassana than I am. I have just done, you have done more. So what you spoke about some experiences during Vipassana. Would you like to briefly mention that?
Yeah. So I came from a long meditation background, doing different kinds of analytical meditations, object meditations, deity meditations, death meditations, Tonglen meditations, oh my God, it was just so, I had a lot of experience, but I was always literally scared of doing Vipassana. Because, just sitting there doing anapana and then, being present in your body to whatever is happening, I was like, no way, I just cannot do this. And then a friend of mine who is a true Vipassana, veteran, he goes for 30-day retreats. He said to me, I'm booking you a retreat and you're going. And then I said, no, but I have work. And he said, you know what, I'll pay you, you just go for it. I'm like, really? Okay, I'm going. So he bribed me and I went. And the first 3 days was sheer torture. Focusing on your breath is sheer torture because it's boring and you don't know what's happening because you feel like you're just stuck in a time warp. So I hated it. Every inch of my body was aching. I wanted to leave. On the 4th day, I was thinking, come on, Avril, you've done so much before, you can do it. So I forced myself to sit there. On the 6th day, when they say, you have to maintain atithana, so you sit in one pose without moving in a muscle, even if something bites you, you're supposed to just sit. I experienced bliss. For me, it was like I was present to the sensations, and I was just there. And it doesn't happen all the time. But today, this morning, when I did my Vipassana meditation, it happened. And I was thinking, after I came out of the meditation, I was thinking, I must tell Ram. Because today, the same thing happened where it was just, you have this kind of floating feeling where there's no concept of this 3D reality. There's no time and space. You've kind of let go. It's like someone, like a kite is flying and you've got it in your hand and someone just lets go and you're just there and you're present. And it's the most ecstatic, blissful experience. But the thing is, when you expect it or search for it, it never comes. It's something that you just have to, that's the power of just letting go, right? So I think that's the magic of Vipassana, because every day you're discovering something new about yourself. And most days, for me personally, most days are not great meditations, but that is still a meditation and it's an experience, because you've got to let go of it being a certain way, wanting something, because those are just preconceived notions and you're clinging to what is your expectation. And I just, even when I am in a meditation and I'm thinking about everything under the sun, including when am I going to have my cup of filter coffee? I'm enjoying it. I'm just letting it go. I'm like a passenger on an Indian railway platform, and everything is just going by me and I'm just there. So you should give Vipassana a try if anybody wants to. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I totally second that. I mean, each one has a different experience. Like the first 3 days wasn't too difficult for me. Yeah, whatever. But for me, you said the 6th day, but actually for me, the 4th day was when they started the kriyas and made me sit for 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening on that fixed posture. So for the first, it was torture. I discovered parts of my body that never existed before. And
me too.
And as I was telling you, by the 6th day, I had pretty much given up. And then I went to this teacher, who was the only person you're allowed to speak. And he said, oh, if you want, you can sit in a chair. But he also added, that will be no different. You'll still feel the pain. I said, okay. The next day, I sat in a chair. And I was telling you this, that I saw a person who wasn't quite all there in terms of his ability to sit. So I gave up that seat and thinking, gone, I'm shot. But actually, the bell rings and the bell rings again. It was 1 hour later that I really came out of it, because and that evening, Goenka on the video, he said that some of you may have experienced this, and compassion is the most powerful emotion there is, and it cures pain. So that's absolutely true. And then on the 8th day, 9th day, like you said as well, the dissolution can. So Vipassana is amazing for anyone who really wants to understand themselves, find their true purpose in life, be able to discover that reality, that you are really energy in addition to being matter. It's one of the most powerful ways there are surely others, but it's an extremely powerful way of discovering that. Yeah. So
may I add something, Ram?
Yeah, sure, of course.
I think also, I'm sure there are lots of coaches on this webinar. I think it also, what happened to me with Vipassana was it built up a lot of my presence in the moment, a lot of awareness, and a lot of, non-judgment, and like Ram said, compassion. And these are like, and you're not like whining. It's compassion with an elegance, It's like, you're present to it. You're empathizing with it, as a coach, like but you're not in it. You're not kind of crying with the client. You're not, getting into it and going down a rabbit hole. So I think to develop some of the markers in coaching, it just came to me. I thought I'd just share. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
No,
I love talking.
No, you're totally right. Yeah, I had the same problem, because I didn't think, my wife said, there's no way that you are going to last 10 days in Vipassana. So how are you going to be able to do it without talking? So when I came out on the 11th day, and I did it in Singapore, and she was in Bangalore at that point in time. And she said, what the hell? I can't hear a word of what you're saying, because I said, I just got out of Vipassana. She said, so what? So I haven't spoken for 10 days. So it took me another 3 days before I found my voice, so to speak. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Which is why, very, very simply put, coaching is about not knowing. It's about the energy state, where it's not about a conversation or communication, it's about a communion. And so if you've done something like Vipassana, and I always recommend to people two things. One is do the Vipassana, and the other one is go to the Ramanashram and sit in the Samadhi in front of the Samadhi, and you will have the same kind of experience. In fact, she's not here now. She was in the previous session with us. Tracy Brown, she's one of our trainers. She's going for a Vipassana program in British Columbia. She again, like you, she hasn't had the fortune to meet His Holiness Dalai Lama, but she has been through Buddhist practices and so on. So
yes.
It's something amazing in terms of, so you spoke about coaching. Now that, so what led you to, you told me something about, somebody said something about Kocharya, but what is it that really impelled you to move into the coaching space?
I like the word impelled. So I was doing energy therapy and I was doing mindfulness programs with corporates called Mind Your Business and with individual cohorts called Mind Your Mind. And then I had developed a program for women called Shakti based on 12 parameters. And a friend of mine who knows Priya and Ramesh suggested to me that I get into coaching. And I was like, I see, ignorance, it can come at any age, right? So I was ignorant about coaching as in terms of the ICF coaching. You hear of Jack Canfield and Tony Robbins and this and that, but I never heard of the ICF. So I read up, I had a conversation with Priya. And again, it was not something that I really had to, think about. I said, because first of all, things happen to me at the spur of the moment. It's like it's divinely orchestrated where, like I'm given like 2 hours to decide. I'm like, really? Okay, now what? So I was literally given like a week to decide about, a big investment, a big coaching undertaking, like a big project undertaking. And then I said, yes. And so here we are. I just finished my PCC. I was literally led to it. Like I say, I get divinely derailed at every area of my life. And I like it because I'm open to the experience. I love coaching. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed my ACC and my PCC journey. I think my PCC mentor could be on this call, so I'll say nice things about him. No, he's fantastic. He's just fantastic. It's made me a much better person because I think it helps me to self-coach myself. And I think it's made me genuinely like people more, not for what I see, but for the essence that I see in them. That's what it's made me. It's made me understand that we are all the same. And you may be whoever you are, CXO or, a man on the street, but our essence is the same. And we need to have that compassion. And I think with coaching, it's not coming from a space of, oh, let me help you because I know so much and I'm a healer and I'm a therapist and I'm la, 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 la. It's like, listen, you and me are the same. And that's what I like. Because I think it's like an even keel. And I get coached when I coach people, I'm getting coached by them simultaneously. And I go back and I'm thinking like, wow, that was really an eye opener. So I just love this space. And by the way, I want to be an MCC coach. Don't want to end at PCC, Ram. So I'll be looking for your support.
Of course you will be, and we've already invited you to be, once you get your PCC, a trainer with us. So it'll happen.
Thank you.
You're in safe hands with Cindy. But far more importantly, like when we spoke as well, I said that two things happened. I went through a serious spiritual journey, and I found coaching to be far more spiritual than my journey with the fake guru, which makes me disbelieve in any gurus now. And the second is coaching is healing. I think it's nothing, no other word describes it better than the fact that coaching is healing. It's self-coaching, self-healing. It is coaching other people, it's healing. And you are both in a spiritual path as well as in a healing path. And so someone like you, it's like fish in water. So I don't think there's any questions about it. So yeah, we are all together in this journey, continuously learning. So that's where we are. And thank you very much. Is there any question at all, Kiva?
Yes.
Yeah, anything
Yes.
for Avril to answer?
Yeah, so there's a question, Avril, from Caroline. She's asking, I'm curious as to what you may have studied in the realm of energy therapies. Here in South Africa, although there are many of us who work with energy, the chakra system is maybe not as widely accepted as in India.
Yeah.
Ram, do you want to answer that, or do you want to take that?
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, look, I mean, the chakra system, even in India, it's highly misunderstood. And first of all, people should understand, I mean, I just covered it in a previous session before we came here for our trainers and planning to go deeper. We are planning to run a program sometime later, probably in the next quarter. The chakra system is real, but it's not a joke. It's like a knife. It's a razor's edge. So there are ways of dealing with the chakras. What is called the tantric way of dealing with chakras is, to my mind, extremely dangerous because I've suffered from it. I lost sight of an eye for a while. I could have lost my mind. All that things can happen. I'm not just trying to scare you, but there's a reality of the situation. There are lots of written evidences about it, documented evidences about it. But there are also other ways of the yogic way of going through chakras and using it. So there's a lot out there which are myths, but there is also a reality, because it is real that we have the energy centers. It is real that we have certain virtual pathways through which the energy can be conducted, and they're safely doing that. So it's not really a question that I would be able to answer in a webinar. It's something, if you guys, whoever is interested, if you want to be familiar with it, we do plan to run fairly longish program, but again, in a very regulated way, so that it is more on application oriented basis. So that's the best I can say at this point in time. Yeah.
There's one more question that's from Vinita.
Sure.
How are you imparting Buddhism as an experience in your coaching sessions?
So I think my number one, thank you, Vinita, for your question. I think the number one thing is having compassion and having no bias and self-acceptance. They go very well with coaching, and they are like a mainstay of Buddhism. The other thing is to be present and to be aware. So I do, go through certain centering and grounding practices with certain people if they are open to it, because it's always a check-in with whether they're open to it. So I start and end with a grounding. I start with a grounding and centering, which is which I do from a Buddhist perspective, and then I end with a micro meditation, and it's with their permission. So most people are open to it, and some people are not, which is fine. But to answer your question, Vinita, it's exactly what I said. So I use the tenets of compassion, kindness, awareness, and presence. And I go a little bit deeper with those, and I marry them with my coaching style.
I'd just like to add to this, Avril, what you said. In fact,
Sure.
When I went through my higher level NLP training, there was a particular session on it that you go into a trance state, imagining yourself to be someone that you kind of role model, because NLP is based really on role modeling. So what came to my mind at that time was Ramana Maharshi. So I went into that state, and for the next 1 hour, honestly, I was really behaving in a way which anyway, whatever I thought was. So if you really want to exemplify the Buddhist way of behavior in this thing, think about going to the trance state and become the Dalai Lama.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than that. So
actually, what you're saying is true, because often when I'm in a tricky situation, or I used to have huge anger issues, and I had a motor mouth, and it was basically what I realized is it was basically a protection mechanism. Especially, in Bombay, if you can't stand up for yourself, they're going to eat you up alive in show business. So I had developed this really, really angry I was just vile, for lack of a better word, just vile. And I realized that when I started listening to these gurus and I began going for teachings to His Holiness and reading these books, I began one day, just in a state of meditation, I began actually channeling my one of my gurus, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who told me that, just talk to your father about Jesus and Mary and sing. I began channeling him. And I do that so often. I just think, what would he do in this situation? How can I be more like him? So, Ram, I completely agree with you. And I really have to channel him a lot.
Absolutely. That's a good way of exemplifying the Buddhist way of coaching. Thank you very much, Avril. It's been wonderful.
You're so welcome.
Yeah. And we'll catch up again. We'll be talking soon.
Yes.
So thank you very much, Kiva. It's been a wonderful session. It's a very different session. It took us to spaces which certainly I did not anticipate. Perhaps you didn't anticipate either, but it was wonderful talking to you. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Kiva. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Ram. And stay blessed and much metta to all of you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much, Avril.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I was thinking about was just how it's been inspiring to just see how for you, the head, the heart, and the hand, it's like it's all aligned in every form. I think that's one of the takeaways that I've had while listening to you. So thank you so much for the session today.
Thank you, Kiva. You're very generous. I will try my best to live up to that. But thank you very much. And I seek the blessings of Ram. And I seek the good wishes of all of you. And I send you my good wishes to stay blessed and be great.
I should seek your blessings, not me. You seek mine. Okay, thank you. Bye. See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.